This is sick.
Damn it, Hunter. What are you getting us into?
If you don't confront your fears, you are always going to be afraid.
Trust me. How do we get down?
Every hour that passes, the weaker we get. Our water isn't that bag.
Hunter!
If you're scared of dying, don't be afraid to live.
Welcome back. We start off trailing 3 young climbers in their 20s as they ascend a huge rock. As one of them, a man, falls to his death, the anxiety grows. After 51 weeks, we finally meet up with Becky, the deceased man's wife, who is still having a hard time coping with her loss despite her father's advice to move on, as it has almost been a year. The widow then receives a visit from Hunter, her best friend, who convinces the reserved mourner to start climbing again. There is no better way to gradually reintroduce a buddy who has experienced trauma into the sport than having them assist in the construction of a 2,000-foot edifice. Hunter turns out to be one of those annoying TikTok vloggers who enjoys recording herself acting strangely in order to get likes and views. In any case, they subsequently travel for 6 hours in the midst of the desert in an attempt to reach the abandoned B-67 TV tower, but they are unsuccessful in their search, for better or worse. So they approach a random restaurant server and ask her where the 4th highest building in the US is located. She gives them the impression of being ridiculous as she points out the window and shows them the enormous skyscraper they had been searching for all night. It's directly before their freaking faces. Becky had to charge her phone before they go over there. Consequently, Hunter employs a rather ingenious life hack that she may have learnt from YouTube, inserting the phone charger's prongs straight into a lamp bulb. They left the following morning, having spent the previous night experiencing bizarre dreams about her deceased spouse. They continue driving in the direction of the tower. A bothersome fence immediately stops them in their tracks, forcing them to walk the remainder of the trip. Though it should be noted that vultures normally do not attack living things, they eerily circle overhead as they approach the tower, eating on a half-dead carcass. Hunter begins his usual practice of snapping photos on Instagram as the massive edifice towers over them. Becky loses it all when her naive and haughty buddy informs her of the tower's bizarre specifications and height. She lost her marriage after her prior climbing experience, and she witnessed all of her hopes and plans for a new life crumble. In light of the fact that this is her first climb back after the accident last year, she quickly informs Hunter that she is really reconsidering her decision and doesn't think she will be able to climb that dreadful beast today. When she confides in Hunter that she is having second thoughts, her buddy allays her worries and says they must go on since they have come so far. Under the pressure of Hunter's relentless encouragement, Becky relents. Together, they ascend the aging, rusty structure, ignoring every creak and wobble. Even when one of the bars snaps off the ladder, Becky doesn't seem to put her foot down. They stopped in the middle to have a small sip of water, and then they humorously disregarded additional screws that kept coming off and going straight past them. It looks like a few annoying satellite dishes are in the way of them. Rather than contemplating a, "Oh well, maybe we should just leave it here and call it a day," they push past them and ascend the final, ancient staircase to the top. Using a drone, they record themselves wildly dangling from the crumbling ancient structure, and they snap a ton of selfies. When they're done messing around up there, Becky scatters her departed lover's ashes at random. After she comforts Hunter, who's surprisingly emotional about her friend's husband's passing, they both finally decide to get the heck out of there. But their relief is short-lived. On their descent, the rusted ladder gives way under Becky's weight. Hunter helps her climb back up to the top platform of the tower, which is a relief. Their shouts of relief quickly give way to shock and fear upon realizing they're now imprisoned 2,000 feet above the ground, unable to even use a phone connection to check their Facebook status. After taking stock of their surroundings, they see an emergency box with a tiny set of binoculars and an ancient flare weapon. However, whomever packed it absolutely forgot to include any food or beverages, like a flask of water or a beautiful donut. They just left, dropping their bag of goodies beside the satellite dishes and talking about donuts. Becky's leg is injured, but they now lack first aid equipment, beverages, and solids to treat it. When they take a picture of the vulture oddly devouring a live animal and receive a lot of likes on Instagram, they eventually discover that they had a phone signal back on the ground. So, if they can just get their phone down to a lower altitude, then this influencer with over 60,000 followers could send out a message to let her fans know their dumb asses are totally stuck on a small platform 2,000 feet above a random desert. As is inevitable, they strip and insert the phone, padded with a sock and a push-up bra, into Hunter's shoe. Following that, Becky notices a tattoo on her partner's ankle that reads 143, which is odd considering her late husband used to tell her he loved her with that exact same word. Hunter tries to draw the attention of a dog walker downstairs by undressing further and trying to knock him out with more shoes. But before she can respond, "Yeah, something ain't quite right here," she notices him. Even while he does notice one of the aforementioned shoes, he comically turns his head away from the upward direction and fails to observe the unfortunate, half-naked girls who are performing sultry stripteases miles above. Once night falls, they try to use the flare gun to get his attention after he camps out in an RV for the evening. He and his companion eventually spot them, but they don't understand the girls are stranded, so they rob them instead. It appears that these women are unable to take a rest. Becky contacts Hunter about the tattoo after a short period, once things have settled down. The fact that Hunter admits to having an affair with Becky's husband exacerbates an already dire situation. Feeling so overwhelmed with regret and not wanting to be stuck in such an unpleasant condition, Hunter offers to try grabbing their bag of supplies from the satellite dishes close below. She doesn't seem to be alive, but then she suddenly tumbles from the rope. Fortunately, though, she lands squarely on the supplies bag in an amazing manner. After the tiny, scrawny woman somehow hauls her back up, they write an SOS note and stick it to the newly retrieved drone. But like most of these bloody things, the machine runs out of battery barely 30 seconds after it's launched, so they have no choice but to bring it back already. Later that evening, Becky has a dream in which she is being eaten. However, it turns out that this was really a horrible delusion, since her leg wound is becoming much worse. The next morning, they had the wonderful idea to apply Hunter's prior mad life hack. They tried to use the beacon atop the tower to charge their drone so that it won't be hit by planes. So, using a wedding ring to transfer the electricity and some other made-up science, Becky starts charging the drone. But she has to stay up there for several hours, clinging to the pole for dear life while vultures circle dangerously close, starting to attack as soon as they smell blood. They eventually fly the drone back to the motel after she takes a little break and whines about how much she misses her dad and feels bad about how disrespectful she was to him the last time they spoke, only for it to be struck by a passing truck. Before she can say, "Well, that was a total waste of time," a raging storm approaches. Hunter tells Becky that she can't give her a shoe since the shoe is on her foot and the rest of her body is completely buried behind the satellite dishes. Becky wants to attempt the phone in the shoe trick one final time. It turns out that Becky has been seeing her husband whoring pal for hours, which is a startling development that nobody could have predicted. Hunter did not make it through the fall from the rope. She died instead. Becky has been thinking about them, alone with her troubles and her friend. With her strength back, Becky is prepared to film one more video message. The following morning, Becky wakes up to a substantial raw breakfast with extra feathers and gets just enough stamina to go down to the dishes after having a small weep and filming a final goodbye video to present to her dad. She then proceeds to dump her body from the tower, showing her contempt for her unfaithful friend's corpse by stuffing her phone inside the last shoe that is left and pushing it into her partner's rib cage. We show her father speeding down the highway and quickly getting back together with his daughter, who appears to have been saved entirely off-screen, just as the satellite dishes are about to collapse. A corny voiceover declares that we must all live fearlessly as we come to an end. Please let me know if you enjoy it. Leave a comment if you have a moment, and I'll see you in the next one.